How's it going, everyone? Bitcoin bouncing this morning at the top of this little up move. I believe we were up about 5% from the lows put in last night, where it looked like we were going to break down once again. We just by a couple of dollars didn't break the wick from that initial sell-off the day before last, and that means we are still technically just by the skin of our teeth maintaining the uptrend from the lows put in August this year. But I'm outside today. I want to take a step back from the charts and a step back from all the noise in the market and just talk a little bit more generally for a moment about times like this in the market and how scared we need to be and how optimistic it's realistic to be in situations like this. Again, there's all sorts of details about whether or not the Fed is going to stop quantitative tightening, start quantitative easing, whether or not that'll inject more liquidity into the markets, whether that will save us. I believe the chance of a rate cut at the December meeting has gone down slightly from yesterday by a couple of percentage points, looking at 66% last time I checked FedWatch. But again, we can get into all of that detail in a later video. What I want to talk about today is just the general sentiment and the way I have come to see times like this in the market. So I'd invite you to think back to April of this year or August 2024 last year and consider how dismal and dark those times were looking for Bitcoin. Because ultimately, I think a lot of people come to become disillusioned with what Bitcoin is and the opportunity that the crypto markets present. I think even those of us who have our ear in the markets and have our finger on the pulse of crypto can become quite easily disillusioned with what crypto and what Bitcoin actually is in terms of an investment opportunity, right? What it is not is this endless money tree that's just going to keep printing us money in one direction only forever. It's very easy to start thinking like that when everyone's getting excited, everyone's getting euphoric, and we're thinking, will Bitcoin make 110k? Will Bitcoin make 120k? Will Bitcoin make 125k? But the truth is, and it seems quite obvious looking back in hindsight, those are the worst possible times to be accumulating Bitcoin long term. And ultimately, the times when you can really make money in these markets are when you're buying the complete opposite of that sentiment. Times like now, times like April this year, times like August last year, when things are looking really dark, really dismal, and at best, just plain boring. Those are the times when it makes sense to really up your accumulation, because if you believe in what Bitcoin actually represents to the global financial system, if you believe it's actually the conduit of transition into a new, more fair global financial system, or just a financial system, not necessarily global, but whatever it is, if you believe in the future of Bitcoin, why do you want to be buying it when it's the most expensive it's ever been? It makes no logical sense at all. And so I think it's really important to keep that sentiment in mind at times like this, when everything's in the balance. It seems like things are just worse day by day. That little bounce once again was precipitated actually by short liquidations this time. Okay, and we know those have been stacking up. It was about time some of the shorts got liquidated in the market, but still you're looking at a 5% move. If you're in this for the long run, if you're interested in the future of crypto and interested in growing your wealth that way over time, you shouldn't be worried or concerned about 5% moves in either direction. In fact, you should start getting excited when we see big moves to the downside, like this overall macro 20% pullback. I wouldn't even necessarily call this a crash in the grand scheme of things, right? Just a pullback. But that's kind of where my head's at now, okay? And I mean, I've been talking about short-term plays on the market lately, and that is something that I'm doing actively day by day, week by week at least. But really, that is a very small part of the portfolio, and that is a part of risk management. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is, don't worry too much about the daily wins, the daily losses. If you get too caught up in that, too caught up in the noise, too caught up in trying to beat the market with ultimately really small amounts of money, you are destined to fail. You're destined to become one of the 90% of retail traders who just always lose money time after time. Once again, what always wins is time in the market, right? Time in the market beats timing the market. And really pays to keep things very, very simple if, once again, you actually believe in this stuff long term. If you don't, then I guess this isn't for you, and that's totally fair enough. There's still short-term opportunities that you can take advantage of. But for me, and for most of the guys that have been through multiple cycles like this, when we see the whole market starting to get, or the market at large, particularly retail, starting to get dismal, dejected, frustrated, angry and upset, and then eventually just bored, we know that those are, excuse me, we know that when everyone's feeling negative about this, that is the time that your ears should prick up and you should start opening up the gas on dollar cost averaging, right? If you're buying Bitcoin for the long term, any discount should be music to your ears, and any continued period of discount should be music to your ears. So I'm stepping up my long-term spot holdings of Bitcoin right now. Still interested in the short term, obviously, but I hope that helps. It's a bit of a cliche, right, that it pays to be greedy when others are fearful, but it really does, particularly if you're thinking long term. That's all I've got for you right now. As always, not financial advice, purely my opinion, just shared for entertainment purposes. Plenty more to come. Catch you in the next one. Bye.